Hey everybody, this is the third episode of I Like Rice, and the movie that I watched for this episode is so freaking weird that I've got to uh, change the way that I approach the review of this movie. I watched Are We Not Cats? This movie is so freaking weird. I haven't seen anything like it before, and it's the weirdest thing that I've seen in a long time. Now, I am still going to talk about the best scenes from this movie, and there were a couple of things that weren't quite believable, but for the most part, this movie is quite believable because I've met people that were really, kind of uh, weird and a little off in the head. Now, the story is about Eli and Anya. Eli is a guy that's down on his luck. He loses his job, his parents move away, and he gets a box truck. No apartment, and really, from what it seems, no money. Now, he gets a job and ends up in this little isolated town in the dead of winter. There's a lot of snow everywhere, and there's not a whole lot of people that he interacts with very well. Now, the first thing that was unbelievable happened pretty early on in the movie. Now, Eli makes his way up to. He has a job that gets him to the job that he's going to do full time, and he gives a ride to. He's hauling an engine to be put into a car, and the customer whose car is being worked on needs a ride, so he gives him a ride. But this freaking guy, he starts taking hits off a bottle of antifreeze. What the crap? Now, I know people do weird things, and I've heard of people drinking antifreeze before, so that wasn't what was unbelievable. But what was unbelievable is that Eli, a grown man who had never done this before, decided, what the hey, I'll start taking hits of antifreeze. Freaking, I've never met somebody that starts doing crazy stuff like that just out of the blue. Now I know people who have started drinking, I know people who have started smoking, though that one doesn't happen very often because, let's face it, that's something you start doing when you're a teen and you just hold over as an adult. But the same thing should be said for antifreeze. You don't just start drinking antifreeze because you think it's a what the hey moment, that. Well, that leads to the next scene, which is a really good way of showing how down Eli is on his luck. He wakes up in the morning, goes to take a piss, and it's freaking bloody. Well, yeah, you drank antifreeze. What's even more unbelievable is he keeps doing it the next night. But anyways, he goes into this little diner. The guy's like, "You want some soup?" And he's like, "Nah, man, I'm good." And he goes, "It's free." Okay. So the guy gets like hot water, puts some ketchup in it, and stirs it up and gives it to him. "Here's your ketchup soup for the morning." Now, I know that's a thing. I'm not unaware. I've been pretty broke before and eaten, a piece of bread and milk before for dinner. I just thought that was a good way of setting the stage for how down on his luck he is. Well, once Eli gets to this place that he's going to be working, he meets Anya, who is also working there, and decides to go and party with her at her apartment. He finds her pretty attractive, and she's a decent looking woman. So he goes to hang out with her, and she tells him that first night that they're hanging out, "I'm in love with Kyle, so don't get the wrong idea." But then they start doing this weird flirty thing where they're eating his hair. It was really odd, and he seems into it, so whatever. Then he takes off her wig. Now, I didn't realize this was a wig, but he being there closer to her and, running his hands over her face and things, he realizes he takes her wig off and she's got really stringy hair. Like, it's been pulled out Now, before this, she had said that she was really sick and she didn't know what was wrong with her. So I thought, okay, this is just a part of her sickness. And then I thought, oh my gosh, she's got the worst syphilis in years. She's gone crazy and her hair's falling out. She has syphilis, and now this dude's trying to sleep with her, and he's going to get syphilis. And this isn't really a horror movie other than the don't have sex with people that you don't know, because then you can get syphilis and go crazy. Or maybe it was like Contracted, where they turn into zombies or something. But he just, goes along with it. It's cool, and he keeps flirting with her, and she'd pull out his hair and feed it to him, and then she would eat some, and I just thought it was weird, right? So they're getting hot and heavy and everything. She runs in the bathroom, and you just hear hacking, right? It sounds like she's coughing, but then it's got a little bit of a puke sound to it, and I'm like, oh no, this is freaking Are We Not Cats? And this chick's throwing up a hairball, and I was right. They follow, like, Eli gets up after she runs into the bedroom, goes into the bathroom, and there's this freaking huge bloody hairball in the toilet that she's just, coughed up. Like, what the crap? This is so freaking weird, right? He looks at it and then goes into the bedroom and lays down with her. I wake up in the morning, she's eaten all of his hair in the night. And this is the second unbelievable thing. He just wakes up and goes about his thing. Doesn't freaking freak out. Doesn't say anything about it. Nothing. Just, oh well, she ate my hair in her sleep and here we are. What the crap? This movie's so freaking weird. And this is a slow burn. I'm probably over an hour into the film already. There's really a lot of nothing that goes on in this movie. And I kept hoping, like, the climax is, at the end. Wait, I forgot to warn you this time. There are spoilers in this video review. So I almost said podcast. I've been thinking about moving to a podcast format because, let's just face it, I've got a face for radio. But anyways, I thought at the end this chick would turn into a werecat and just rip him apart and just eat him, right? That never happens. There's really very little payoff in this movie. But what does happen, and what is another great scene in this movie, for what it is, the best scenes in the movie, is Anya, like, passes out while they're, getting down, and, like, he checks her breathing. It's incredibly shallow. Her heart rate's really low, and he calls 911, right? And he goes, what happens if you eat too much hair? And they're like, what? Did you eat too much hair? No, but Anya did, and she's passed out. She's got very little pulse, very shallow breathing. They're like, keep her stable, and we'll be there soon. She's probably really blocked up by all this hair that's in her system. So he's waiting there, right? And they told him it would be hours, and he's like on edge. You get that from his the actor's face, his expressions, all of this. It's actually really well acted. I didn't really doubt anything in this movie. And she's just laying there, and he gets impatient and cuts her open. Now, this is the only gore in the movie other than the bloody hairball and the bloody piss. He cuts her open and pulls out the freaking hair rock from her gut. And this is shown, like, in detail. You see him putting his hand into her gut and pulling this hair out, right? It was freaking nuts. Like, what in the world? She ends up okay, even with this homemade surgery. Well, I don't even know what to say. This is so freaking weird. I've watched this movie for an hour and a half, right? And all that, or hour and 20 some minutes. And the climax is a little at home surgery. It was kind of a letdown, right? No pursuit, no monster, no serial killer, not even like really body horror. So I looked, and it's billed as a horror romance. What the crap is this? It's not even really a romance. Like, yeah, they end up together, and Eli gets fitted for a wig too, and but it's like, what in the freaking world have I just watched? Like, penicillin could have prevented this movie, I think, if they had gonorrhea or syphilis. Like, it, and the only thing that prevented them is probably distance from a free clinic. My gosh, I've been to free clinics. I know people that have, I've not for syphilis, but I've gone for like checkups and stuff. I've been broke. Like I said, I've eaten, bread and milk for dinner before. These places exist. And I know people that have gone to get their, STIs checked out. Like, they'll give you some antibiotics and you can work through it. They diagnosed my bronchitis and gave me some medicine, sent me home. So I know you can do this, even when you're broke. But it had to be distance, because if emergency services took hours, that had to be, that's the only explanation that makes any sense. But the cap to this whole gross movie is that they pan forward and there's a party and the lights are going and the music's up, and they show that Anya has turned this hair rock into a disco ball. It's got the reflective colored squares adhered to it, and it's spinning during the music, and it's just freaking weird. There wasn't a whole lot going for this movie other than the fact that it was really freaking weird. It was believable. It was, but there was so little payoff, and that seemed to be the biggest complaint from the comment section on Shudder.com, which, by the way, Shudder.com is totally worth the very small amount of money that it costs for a monthly subscription, especially when you get it annually. But it wasn't really a horror movie. It was a very odd romance that occurs, and I really didn't enjoy watching the movie. I watched it all the way through simply because I thought that there would be this werecat payoff. I seriously thought that was what was going to happen. She's going to turn into a werecat and rip him apart, and this guy's bad, week is going to be really bad at the end of the day. And that never happens. He just cuts a hairball out of her. I don't recommend this movie. I give it a 3 out of 10. Like, I'm not angry about watching it, but I wanted to turn it off. And it was believable. The acting was actually done really well. It just was not a very good movie at all. So that's my video for this week. Sorry it got out a little late, and I hope that I helped you either make an informed decision about watching this bad movie or not watching it at all. All right, you guys have a good one.